Welcome to today's class. We'll be going through short, let me see. I think I'll start with filtering, and then we go to reviews. Then we put reviews on each page. The thing is, I hope this template has like the section for reviews. So before we do that, let me just double check if this template has a section for reviews. So I'm just gonna close other tabs, close, and then I'm gonna open the template, and then we're gonna run index.html, which points to the actual home page or the landing page. So now I'm going to check. I just want to check if it filters. So let me see. Okay, so it doesn't. Let me go to about. So this would be the about page. It's going to have all of these things. But I think I could make up, like, come up with my own, like, section for reviews, because remember, you need to be able to review each product. That means you're going to need a review table for that. And we need to create a relationship between all the tables. So that's where your foreign keys come into place. But I think for filtering, we did cover that. Because if you look at the code for filtering, right, you just make sure that each div for each product, you give it an ID, right? And then whenever this is clicked, the code, right, it redirects to divs with those specific IDs. So I'll close this and then I'm gonna open the memorandum. But the thing is, I'm not sure if I should be using this. Let me delete this. Okay, still refusing to delete. Let me leave it. Let's unzip the the memo that we had, right? Mm. Okay, it's unzipping. But technically, I could just start from scratch, like use one of the templates that you guys got for your semester test. I could do that because I think those templates actually have a bit more. So let me just use them. Obviously, it's going to be annoying because I have to create everything from scratch, but it's good revision. So I'm going to run this website, and then obviously in order to run the website, you need to have the service running. So I'm going to open my service application. Yeah, it seems like I'm actually forced to have this to start from scratch because one of these pages don't have a review section, right? So I'm obviously going to need to run the interface here. So these are all the methods. I chose a different approach. I returned a char here. Okay. Yeah, you can implement it in whatever way you want to implement it. That's totally up to you. Let me use Chrome. Let me switch the browser to Chrome. So yeah, because the Chrome browser is a bit better. There's a lot of functionalities. So we have our service running. Now we can run our application. So just to be sure, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on my service reference to update it. Okay, we have logout, okay. I just genuinely feel like I need to use that template. Okay, not Microsoft. I don't need Microsoft Edge. Close. I do not need Microsoft Edge. I need Google Chrome. Yeah, it seems like we have to start from scratch because there's certain pages that are missing on these templates, right? So I need the templates with everything that's required. So I'm just testing to see, but I think we did do filtering. That's something that we covered. The database uses cannot be open because it is version 904. The server runs on version 8. A downgrade. Okay, I don't know why it's doing this. You get what I'm saying? So yeah, let's just do this. Let me pause. Let me just download the template and start from scratch. Because at this point now I'm getting errors for versions. Now I need to downgrade my SQL, which is going to be which is going to take way more time. So let me see if I still have the PDF here. If I don't, I'd have to stop sharing and then download it. But okay, there it is. So I'm going to download one of the templates. Um, I think I'll use H. If I'm not mistaken, that was the easiest template to work with. So I do not need these folders. Skip. And then I also do not need this. So the other one is refusing to download because it hasn't closed. Your files are still safe and the Dropbox team has been notified. Why? This okay, seems like it's closed. Yeah, seems like it was set for a specific number of hours and now it is closed. Oh, okay, I thought it was closed, so that's fine. So let me pause here. And then I think I'll download paper H. Was it H or J? Okay, but I think it was, let's see, was it H or J? We'll see. Let me open H because I still kind of remember how they look. So it's either H or J. Those are the easiest templates to work with or to manipulate. So there's paper H. So I'm gonna right click and extract all. And then just view the template. Yeah, I think I still remember how it looks. So we'll just confirm. But then majority of the templates had the pages. It's only for the select few that didn't have all the pages. So I'm gonna right click on index.html. Um, Definitely not the one. So it's paper H. So no, it's J, I mean. So it's J. So I'm gonna download J. Is it J? I'm mixing them up. Let me see. It's A. Or paper A was problematic. G had a lot of things to fix. The problem with paper A is that when you started implementing your buttons, they were not clickable. Don't know why. So yeah, that was the problem with paper A. So J, I know it was easy to work with. Even manipulating, it's the easier one to manipulate. So I'm going to open, yeah, it's Frutica, yeah. Okay, we still need a bit of images, but For me, I'm not gonna waste time dictating a lot of images. Yeah, it was this one. So, so let me go to the about page. Okay, this is about them. Okay, I want the shop. So there's the shop. Yeah, the 6 products should suffice. So yeah, there's a lot of pages that I do not need. The news, I do not need. The contact, I do not need. The contact, I only need it when it comes to here, when I have to create register and login page, and also add manager and add product page. That's when the contact page will be useful. Other than that, I shouldn't have an actual contact page. So let me see. This is static home, and then slider home. Okay, I'm gonna need the static home. As you can see, the static home is just index.html. So that's the one I'm gonna need. So let's start this long journey of converting. So I'm going to remove the Frutica folder outside here, then delete J. And then I'm gonna select all of these pages except for the 404, because the 404 is just for when there's an error. It should redirect to 404 page. And then I'm going to open with the VS Code. Okay, so there's VS Code. And then I do not need this. So one thing I noticed about these templates, right? They are exactly the same. Like the same way I'm manipulating paper J is the same way you can manipulate all the other papers or all the other templates. One thing I've noticed is that the head section, which is this head part, it was the same throughout all the pages. So I do not have to waste time and go through every single page to confirm that. So now I'm just going to open Visual Studio 2019 and then create a new project. Then I'm going to create an ASP.NET web application using the .NET framework. And then I'm going to call it paper J underscore website. And I'm just going to leave it default to that folder. Or I could just save it on downloads just for now. Um, Let me see. Mm, should I go to downloads? Yeah, let me save it on downloads. I think it'll be easy to access in the download folder. Place solution and project in the same directory. So I'm gonna do that and then create. And then I do not want to configure it for HTTPS because now it means that you should, right, when you're creating an actual project. The problem is that if you configure that, it won't run on at the DLabs because it needs to be, remember the Wi-Fi that's in every single institution. It has like a lot of it has a lot of firewalls, right, to protect hackers from entering the from hacking, right? So if you say for HTTPS, it was going to assume you're trying to hack and then it's going to block access. That means you won't be able to run this application. So I need to unselect that and then click create. Okay, now it's loading. So there we go. So I'm going to close that. And then there's my website. And then I'm going to create a master page, which is sort of like a base class, right? Where you put all the common things in every single page. So I'm gonna call it main. No, I'm creating a web form with the master page. I need to actually generate the master page. So web forms master page. So main, I just call it main. That's the name for it. And then here, just remember, I need to put it above this content placeholder, because this content placeholder is just for in case if the other pages have their own unique information that needs to go in the head section. So I know this is fruit car. That's the company code. That's what the company is called in this template, right? Then I'm going to add my assets folder, right? So I'm going to copy the assets folder. So I'm going to, okay, there's copy. So I'm going to click copy here because I want to copy. If I don't copy, right, you see that the pages won't render well. They won't be aligned, and though you won't see the images and the design, and it's just going to be horrible. So I'll add that later. I need you to see the problem first. So after checking all these pages, right, if you check thoroughly, you realize that the only things that are common is the preloader, the header, and the search area. That's the only thing that's common in all of the pages. You could double check, but that's all the things that are common in all of the pages. So there's the about for describing what the company is about. And then there's the shop.html, which represents like your products page, right? Which lists all of the products. As you can see, there's 3 divs are common in all of them. And another thing that I want you to pay attention to is that you see everything is within a body tag. It's not all of these divs are not within another div. They're just within a body tag. So I must make sure that this div is not there, because all of these things are not within a div. But they still need to be within a form, because that's how ASP.NET works. It needs to have at least one form. So we have no choice on that matter. So I'm going to copy these 3. I know it's preloader, header, and search area. So I'm going to copy these 3 and then put them just right before the content placeholder. And then I'm going to press Control A, then press Control K, Control F to auto align everything. And then if you see another form within the code that you've pasted, remove it, because ASP.NET is only allowed to have one form or one form tag, nothing more, nothing less. And then I know that in between, I know that after the search area div, I'm gonna have many other divs. So these divs I'm gonna call my main divs, right? Or I'm gonna call them my sections, whatever you wanna call them. Or just call it main content. Basically means the main content for the page. And then one thing I've noticed in all of them is that they have the logo, carousel, they have the footer, and they also have the copyright. And all these JavaScripts are the same throughout all the pages, because I don't want to waste time thinking about that. I've already checked. That's how they are. So I'm going to close this and then close, minimize. As you can see, logo, footer, copyright, and then the JavaScripts, that's common in all of the pages. You can you can just confirm in all of the other pages. You see that it is there. You see logo, carousel, copyright, all of them are there. So I'm just gonna copy the pages from my index.html. You could use any page to copy. So I'm gonna copy from carousel, up until the last JavaScript. Copy. Then remember, this needs to come after at the end. So it goes there, and then I'm going to minimize to make my code beautiful, and then minimize. But then you see everything's not aligned. So here I'm going to have what we call main content, or the main page content, right? That's where it's going to go. But then I also realized something before I continue. Okay, that's fine. No, that's fine. Yeah, it is fine. Yeah, I've done it perfect. It's fine. Let me not try to overcomplicate it. So we are done manipulating the template. Then Control A, Control K, Control F. And then that's pretty much all we have to do. So now we can generate all the other pages. So I'll just give this form a different name. I'll call it FRM main or FRM what master page. You don't need to rename it, right? That's totally up to you. Then I'm going to add all the different pages. So we're going to start with the home page. So web form with master page. And then there we go. Okay. And then I'm going to give it a title and call it home page. And then here's going to, that's where we're going to put the main content, which is like the middle part of the page. So the top and the bottom are always common in all of the pages. So what I'm going to do is I'm already inside the index.html. So I'm going to start copying after hero area, no, after search area, because that's where we stopped, right? Those were only the common pages. And then I'm going to start from hero area going downwards. And then I'm just going to stop just before logo carousel, if you remember very well. It didn't copy the way I wanted it to copy. Hero area. And then I'm just going to copy all of that. And then I put it within the main content. And then Control A, Control K, Control F to auto align everything. And then if I happen to see a form, I'm going to change that form to a div because in ASP.NET, you're only allowed to have one form. It says at least one, right? But then you're only allowed to have one form with the run at server tag. So taking it is fine. You can leave the form there, but I just typically like to remove it and replace it with a div because it's actually not going to affect anything or change anything. So I always need to set startup page. If I don't set it, my app is going to crash because by default it's going to load to the master page, which is not really a page. And then I'm going to choose home.aspx and then I'm going to click save all to save all the changes. And then I'm going to run. And then now it's running. You see that the page won't render the way we expect it to render, right? It won't be as beautiful and some images are missing. You see, what's the main issue? It's because it can't find the folder, the CSS, and the images. So we need to tell it or put the folder where it can find, which is the assets folder. So I'm going to copy the assets folder, and then I'm going to come here, and then I'm going to press Control V to paste that folder. Then there it is. It's now there. So now when I rerun my project, it should show all the pages, all the styling and all the images. As you can see, we now see all the styling and all the images. Okay, you shouldn't worry way too much about this. All right. I forgot how I fixed it, but I don't want to waste time worrying about this top part. You could it's not something that's too bad to fix. And then we see that these are all of our pages, but remember these top parts, the certain pages we do not need. So I'm going to remove everything here and leave shop. Yeah, I'm gonna remove everything here and leave the shop page because I know we're gonna need a shop page. How did I fix this again? Da, 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 da. I don't know. I think it was the styling. I don't know. But let's see. Because we need to also have our own styling. Because you see that the buttons and whatnot, they won't render properly. They won't be in proper places. So I have my home page. I'm not gonna use the home page anytime soon. I only use it when I have to render the, what is this? To dynamically populate the products. So I'm gonna click add, and then I'm gonna add another page. And then this page should be called the shop, right? It represents my shop or products, right? I'm just gonna use the reason why I'm going to avoid product, right? Is that there's this new error that I've noticed. When you say product and you're calling a function that gets all the product and you don't use var, you actually use product or an array of products. If you have a page named product.aspx, it complains because it finds a conflict. It's like when you're saying product, are you referring to the product page or the product inside of a database? So what it does, it's going to refer to the immediate one, which is the page. So therefore it's gonna crash. So I'm just gonna name it shop. Even in my table, I'm gonna name it shop. Or I can do this. Remember, my problem statement is based on fruits. I'll just name it fruit, which is a more reasonable name. So fruit or fruits, whatever you wanna call it. I just call it fruit, my fruit page, and then close the main.html index.html, and then I do not want to use this. I'm not gonna make use of any news. So I'm already at the shop. So there's the shop, and then there's the products. So I only need to copy two sections or two divs, which is these two. You see the beauty of making a master page. Now I only have to copy two divs instead of copying the whole div, the whole page. So there's the fruit. So now I need to go to my master page and then change those links, right? Remember those links to redirect to a specific page, which is over here. So you see, I do not need, for example, this static and whatnot page. No, I do not need that. And then there's just a lot of pages here that I most certainly do not need. Okay, the cut and whatnot, I'm gonna leave that because we need the cut. So I'm gonna delete everything here and then change this. So this should redirect to the current page, or you can just set it to home.aspx because we now have the page, and then change this to fruit.aspx. And then you call this page fruits for your fruits, right? And then we'll see if it's rendering properly. Okay, it's still loading. And then there it is loaded. And then let's check out our fruits. You see, it's no longer having multiple options. So go to fruits page, and then there's the fruits. And then I'm going to save my fruits under a category, right? I'm going to have strawberry category, berry category, and lemon category. Why? Because we need to be able to filter. You see that it comes with automatic filtering. You can easily find out how that works. And then all shows all of the products. You can easily find out how that works. by looking at the page. So as you can see, oh, I think this is how I did it. As you can see on this page, you see it's showing properly. So I need this top part and borrow that to put it in my home page because it seems like okay, so then that means it's going to be I think it's that breadcrumb thing. Yeah, it's this breadcrumb thingy. So I'm going to copy it to make my homepage beautiful because if you notice my homepage, everything is squeezed on the homepage. So I'm going to need to remove which part should I remove for the homepage? I think it's this hero area. Let me see. I just want to be sure which part to remove so that I make my homepage look proper. So it has fruit collection, contact us, delicious, fresh and organic. Yeah, I think this is the one. Fresh and organic, delicious, fruit, contact us. Yeah, so it's this whole div. So this whole div, it makes my homepage ugly. So I'm gonna replace it with this breadcrumb. So the page will be called home page, right? That's simply what I change. I don't change a lot of things. I just only change that. You see that my page should render properly now. It shouldn't have everything. Yeah, you see. Now it renders properly. It shows this is the home page. Then now that the link list items are there, and then there we go. We have this, and then yeah, now we can start with creating our register page. But before I click register page, right, I need to have a page for adding the fruits to the database. So I need to right click and I'm going to call it add fruit because we're adding a fruit to the database. So add fruit, and then I'm going to need to borrow from the contact page because the contact page has all the information, has all the input fields, right? To be able to get input. Remember the add fruit is the same as like add product to be able to add the product. So we basically need okay, I'm not gonna need Google Maps. I know I'm not gonna need that. And finding my location, that's not necessary. So the only two things that I need is here, the breadcrumb section and contact form section or div. Only gonna need those two divs. Then I paste and then Control A, Control K, Control F to auto align. And then we need to change this not to contact us to actually call it add fruit because it adds fruit to the database. And then I need to change a few things. Like I said, you see, it's going to complain that form must not be nested within element form. Why is it complaining? Because it's technically nested because remember code that will be placed under this ID called main content will just be copied and pasted here. So if it's copied and pasted here, we already have a form there. And then you're going to paste another form. So hence it's going to say element form must not be nested within another element form. So you simply just change this to a div. Everything gonna work. It's gonna work as it should be working. So leave it like that. And then what I'm going to do is go to my main.master and then where we have all those page lists, where we redirect to certain pages. Where is it? Okay, fruits, there it is here. And then I'm going to copy and then paste. And then this should redirect add fruit. And then this should be called add fruit. And then we run it. Okay, it's loading, and then there's the option add fruit. Always translate Latin. It keeps doing that pop-up. So as you can see, there's certain things we do not need. It's, for example, this and this over here. So I need to find out what the divs are called. So I'm just going to right click on that specific section to find out what it's called. So I'm going to scroll down so that it highlights. You see, it's called contact form rep, but then it's actually the whole thing is actually called call LG4. So call LG4. So I'm going to go to my add fruit and look for call LG4. There it is here. So that whole thing needs to be deleted. It's up to you whether you delete or just comment it out, but I'm not going to need it. I'm going to totally delete it. And then right before, right before the contact form, we have this thing. Do you have a question? Blah, blah, blah. I don't need that there. And this div with no apparent use, I'm just going to remove it. Yeah, remember it's called a template. You need to manipulate the template to make it yours and put only things that you require or things that you need. Then you see now now it's beautiful. We're only left with things that we need. But if you notice something, you see that it's not proper and it's not like big, whatever. The fields are small. We can just use styling, your CSS. How do we do that? My advice to you is that when you get an input, right, you always put it in a div, each input in its own div. So let's do that. So remember what I said, each input in its own div. So I'm gonna cut this and then close and then put a div here. And then within the div, I put the input. And then I do it for the rest. So remember, I need to get specific type of information. So I'm gonna get the user's first name. Okay, this is the add fruit, right? Yeah, this is the add fruit. I'm mixing it up. It's add fruit. So let's go to our shop page and see what information is stored for each product, or which information should we store for each product. So we need to filter, right? So we need a category. So I need to have a category for my fruits. Basically, by category, I mean, is it a strawberry? Is it a what? Is it a lemon? But then for me, I'm just only going to have two Okay, this is not an avocado. This is a kiwi. So I'm going to have three. And what do I have? An apple. Yeah, so I'm going to have a berry category, meaning only berries should be displayed. That's your blueberry, strawberry, cranberry, all of the berries. Then I'm going to have an apple for all the apples. And then I'm going to have a lemon for all the lemons. And then I'm going to have a kiwi for all the kiwis. So that means I need a category. That's number one, which is going to be a string or basically a voucher. Then I need to store the image, which is the voucher, the name, the price, right? And then that's pretty much it. And then we should I can also create a variable or a column in my table and call it in stock to just check if the product is in stock so that we only display products that are in stock. And we can use any variable, you can use any data type for that. And sometimes you see this functionality over here down there for page 3, whatever. I'm not going to need this. You see this? You can leave it. It's fine. You see, because it just redirects to the page itself, but there's no need for you to have it. I'll just leave it. So yeah, so we need number 1 category, number 2 image, number 3 name, which is just the name of that fruit. And this is blueberries, right? A blueberry. And then we need the price. And that's pretty much it. And we need it in stock to check if the product is in stock. So let's have those inputs. So majority of them, yeah, all of them, let's just say all of them are going to be text. Yeah, all of them is going to be text. Like by type text, I mean the input field is you should expect text. For the actual price and everything, we convert it to the actual data type when we transfer it to the database. So here I'm going to say enter category, right? What is the category? And then I'm going to give it an ID of category. I'm just going to call it product. I'm just going to give it long names, product category. And then the name and ID need to match. So okay, nope. I'm copying again instead of pasting. And then I need to put a run it server so that I can be able to run it on the server side. And then we are done with that. And then even the button, everything needs to be within a div. So I'm just going to basically repeat this. So copy this so I need the category image. So enter image URL. And then this will be product image. And then ID is product image. And then we are done. And then next thing that we need is the name, the product name. So enter, you could say enter product category or enter fruit category to be more descriptive. Enter fruit image URL and then enter fruit category, not fruit category, fruit name. Basically, what is the name of the fruit? And then this will be called product name. And then product name. And then after product name, we need the product price, right? Yeah, we need the product price or the fruit price. So enter fruit price and then product price. I shouldn't be calling product. I should be calling it fruit category, fruit image. Let me do that. Let me be consistent here. Fruit, and then this will be fruit again. And then this will be fruit. And then this will be fruit. And then this will be fruit. And then this will be fruit price. And then this will be fruit price. And then that's pretty much all the information we need, right? We need the category, we need an image, we need a name, and we need a price. You could also add a color. That's up to you to say, okay, what color is you can also filter by color and say if it's green, then only show me green fruits. If it's yellow, only show me yellow fruits. You could do that, right? Let me just store that information and then use and filter by one of the colors. I'm not gonna because now you actually could filter by color too. But since I'm already filtering by the category, since I'm already filtering by the category, then I will just leave it like that. I won't complicate my app, but it's fine. It's totally fine. You put color. Let me decide. I just might put color. So let me put this button. So button, like enough for this template, it didn't specify which class, if I'm not mistaken. So let me go back to my submit contact form and see if for the button whether you have to specify a class. Yeah, you see, you didn't specify a class. It knew how to style the specific information because it's given the class contact form. So we need to add our own CSS. You see why we need to add our own CSS. So this will be btn add fruit, and then this will be add fruit, and then we run it. You see that everything won't be like aligned. We're gonna have a problem, and we need to shift it to give it like put some padding on the left to move it to the right. So you see, there's no space. So, but we did make a lot of progress, and we need a label just above the button, right? So I'm gonna go outside, and then I need to put a div here, and then put a label. You see how easy it is to style this thing. It's not a joke. It's easy to style it. So this will be I'll call it response or message, whatever you want to call it. So I'm gonna call it message, and then we have that. So now what I need to do is I need to find a way to style it. How do you style it? You look for the div weights the class name for that div. So you see this div that contains all of this div is called contact form. So what I can do is it's simple. I can copy this, but then I do not want to add on to my CSS. I just want to edit on the specific page. That means I need to also edit on every new page that makes a form, that makes use of like inputs, right? So how do I style it? I'm going to add the style tag to say that this is CSS styling, right? How do you access that class? You say dot followed by the name of that class. So within that class, what do I want to style? I want to style my divs. Why? Because every input or button or label is within a div. But that div is a div underneath this div with that ID. So I'm going to say dot that ID, and then I want to go to all of my divs and do what? And move them all of I need to move my divs to the right, right? All of them. So I'm going to say padding left because you need to add space to the left to move it to the right, which is simple logic. So I'm going to say 200 px or pixels. So that means it's going to shift it by 200 pixels to the right. It's going to add 200 spaces on the left, which incidentally shifts it to the left to the right. So you see, it's shifted to the right because I added space on the left. If you want to shift it to the left, you add padding right, which is space to the right. So now I need to make these divs bigger. How do I do that? I basically set the font size for each input to be a bit bigger, which in turn enlarges the div itself. So how do I do that? It's simple. You just say dot contact form again, but I now want to focus on my input. Every input must be what? Must have a bigger font size. So let's say 18 pixels, right? 18 px, which in turn is going to enlarge the inputs themselves because if you have a bigger font, that means the input itself needs to be bigger. So it's going to enlarge the input fields. So as you can see there, it's larger, right? Again, let me just make it 24 because I want it to be really big and visible. And you see that our divs don't have spacing. It's very simple to add. You realize how easy this thing is. So let me go to add fruit. So you see, yeah, now it's bigger. Now it's proper. I feel like where it currently is right now. Okay, it's a little bit too big, but just that I want you guys to it to be visible for you guys. So you see that this divs don't have spacing. How do I do that? I put space at the bottom so that every new div will have a space at the top, which is called padding. I think it's padding at the bottom or padding bottom, padding bottom, yeah. So that means the padding is space at the bottom. So I'm going to say give it let's try start small, 15 px. But remember, I don't want a very big space. I just want somewhat of a space. So I'm gonna go back to add fruit. And you can do this the same thing that I'm doing for all templates. You see that we have now a space, but the space is still not big enough. So let me double it. I think by doubling it should be bigger. The space should be big enough. The font size seems a bit bigger, but it's fine because I want you to see what I'm typing. So add fruit. So this is how they manipulate a template. So you see now there's spaces after each div. So this will be the first div here, and then it adds a space at the bottom. The next div here, it adds a space at the bottom. The next div here, it adds a space at the bottom. There's the next div here, it adds a space at the bottom. Then there's going to be a div for a label. It has a space at the bottom. So that's pretty much how you manipulate the template. And we're pretty much going to do the same thing for all of our pages, right? And I feel like giving these divs a space, right? A width. You see that they're a bit small. I wanted to make them a bit wider. So how do I do that? Kunja, how do I do that? I think it's width, if I'm not mistaken, or border width. Yeah, I think it's border width, if I'm not mistaken. Let's say 50 px. I don't know HTML and CSS like that, but I can use common sense to work my way through it. That's how easy CSS and HTML is. But when it comes to things like JavaScript, that's when you actually have to think. I don't know whether it did make any difference. Let's do this. Let's increase it to a very big number. Let's say 500, just to see that if it's actually making an impact or making any changes. If it is, that means we are using a very small number. We need to increase the number. Okay, it's not making any difference. I forgot what it's called. So it's not border with. Okay, so the problem, okay, it's not the div. I'm putting in the wrong place. My inputs. Remember, the divs just store the input fields. So for my inputs, that's where I need to set the border with, let's say 100 px. Remember, the div is like they're just housing the input. They're just storing the input fields. So the things that I need to actually be changing is the input fields themselves. So you see, okay, do not bother. Yeah, I'm doing it all wrong. Like I said, I don't know HTML like that. So it's not border. How do you set the width again? They're supposed to be, oh, just the width found it. It was just supposed to be the width, not the border width. I thought it wasn't there, so that's why I was trying border width. Yeah, there's a lot of things that go into place when you're styling, eh? You see? That's why sometimes they say don't have to make it beautiful, just make it work. So it's a bit smaller, so we need to increase the numbers. So let's say 200 is small. Let's say 300. If that's a bit too big, then 250. So you're just playing around with CSS. Okay, let's check how big. Might be too wide, but let's see. Okay, it's a bit bad, but you see now it also gives a width for my button too. So this number is a bit small. I just need to increase it a little bit. So let's make it 400. And since the input fields are a bit bigger and the buttons like they're a bit wider, that means that even the padding on the left needs to decrease so that because now they'll look like they're shifted. You see, they kind of look like they're to the far right. So you need to decrease the padding on the left a bit. So it doesn't take really much to style this thing, if I'm being honest, as you can see. So I'm going to say 70 or 160, 150, 160. So there we go. Yeah, it's a bit on the center. So now we are done with the page. So I'll just reuse this styling and everything on all the other pages, like register page, login page, add manager page, all of them. Um I'll just recycle. So now we need to enter this information. So before we do that, we need to have the tables. So I'm gonna go to Visual Studio and then create a new project. So there it is, it's loading and then new project. It's a bit slow. And then we need to create a WCF service application. And then I'm gonna click next. And then this is paper J, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to say paper J underscore service, right? And then place solution and project in the same directory. I need to check that option. If you don't check it, that means your assistant need to go in within specific folders to find the file to run your code, which is not something that I think you'd want. And then you don't have to, but I'm just gonna delete this and then create a brand new one, right? So I'm going to right click and then add a brand new service. So I'm gonna so that I give it my own name. So I'm gonna call it do I have an option here? Okay, I don't have. So I'm gonna go to new item since it's not showing yet. I think it should show. Is it okay? It's on web. It should show under the web section, and then you want the WCF service. As you can see, dot SVC. That's familiar, right? So I'm just gonna call it paper J. So paper J. So that means when I call it on the other side, it's going to be paper J client. That's how I'm going to use it. Yeah, so it just comes with do work. Then I'm gonna go to paper J service and then just delete that method because it was just a method to tell you that you need to do something. So I'm going to create a new database because I don't have a database that's existing. So I'm gonna right click and say add, right, and then my SQL Server database. So the SQL Server database, I can give it any name. Yeah, I can give it any name. Let me think what I'm gonna call it. Let me call it paper J underscore database. It's my database for my paper J. It's basically paper J underscore database. Then now I'm gonna go to Server Explorer. Now the database exists. So all the other ones like reviews, shopping cart, whatever, we'll add the tables as we go. That's how I like to operate. So I'm gonna create a so far we don't have a login and whatnot, right? Because that's not the main point yet. So what I need to do is I'm just gonna add a fruit table, call it fruit. And then this is a primary key, but I want it to auto increment. So I'm gonna say identity, start from 1 and then increment by 1. And then it shouldn't be now, and it's a primary key. Remember the information we talked about. For each fruit, we need to be able to store the name. It's up to you, whatever you want to call it. You could call it fruit name. That's up to you. I mean, it's a pretty much redundant. I mean, duh, you're in a fruit table, so name just means the name of the fruit. So I'm just gonna call it name. Then I'm gonna use varchar max for the maximum because I don't want to think about lengths, how long this thing should actually be. So I'm just saying the maximum that the varchar can store. So what's next? We need a category. So category, also varchar max because I know it's going to be a varchar, but then the category is not shouldn't be too long. So varchar max is a bit yeah pushing it. So let's say 255 characters maximum. And then after the category, we want the image, which I don't know about the image type. There is an image type here. I think the image type is like literally so storing the image, but we want to store the text or the URL of where the image is. And then after image, so we have category, we have name, category, image, and price. Like I said, you could store color if you wanted to, but for the sake of simplicity, I'm not going to store color. And then I'm going to do this. And then we're going to have the last thing, which is in stock. To just say, just store whether the product is in stock or not. It's up to you what approach you use. Do you use an integer and 1 represents that the product is in stock, or 0, which is going to represent that the product is not in stock? That's up to you. And if you notice something, I made a mistake on my price, it should be a decimal or an integer. So in my case, I don't want to use an integer for in stock. I want it to be unique. I'm going to use a char and then change the length to 1 character. Basically, Y, which stands for yes, the product is in stock, and N will stand for no, meaning that the product is not in stock. So the price, I don't like using decimal. You'll see why I don't like using decimal. We're gonna have issues when we run our code, it's gonna crash. You might not know why, but I'll explain why. So I'm going to say maximum is 18 numbers and comma 2 meaning the number of maximum decimal places. So I'm going to say comma 2. So it has to be up maximum up to 2 decimal places. And then I'm done my table. We're not worried about foreign keys or whatever because we don't have those tables yet that require us to have foreign keys. So update database. Okay, close, and then now we can start implementing our functions. But before we do that, we need to link our table to SQL classes. Link to SQL classes, basically to make it into an object. So link to SQL classes. What would be the data classes called? Remember, it's going to append a data context at the end of whatever name you've given it. I'm just going to keep it simple and say paper J. So that means in order for me to reference these classes, I'm going to say paper J data context like this DB is equals to new. So that's why I'm calling it paper J. And then now we just drag and drop our table that we want it to convert into an object or a class. So fruit is now officially a class. We can work with it like a class or like an object. And then I'm going to operation contract, not behavior, contract. And then I'm going to give my function a name. So I'm gonna remember we need to do three things, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, three things. We need to be able to get all the fruits. We need to be able to add the fruit. We need to be able to get the fruit by ID so that we can redirect to the about fruit page. So that's why I'm saying it's three. So there's many ways you can go about doing it. So to add the fruit, I'm gonna say it returns an S byte or a signed byte. Basically means from the integer minus 128 to positive 127, which is very small because I'm either going to return a 0, 1, or a negative 1. So I don't need a big number like int. That's a lot of space being wasted. So I'm going to call this add fruit because it adds my fruit. And to show you a different technique, right? You can add the fruit this way. You can take in an actual fruit object like this and then initialize that on that other side. Why is it is not defined or imported? Why is it doing this? I think this thing of me naming things the exact same way is the problem. Because I named my data context paper J, my link to SQL. You see, it's also called paper J. So probably why. So I'm gonna delete my service. Let me see. Yeah, you see, that's the thing. If you use the same names, you're gonna have issues. I shouldn't have done that. Huge mistake. So let me delete this link to SQL classes. Let me see if that fixed this. Okay. It's still complaining. So let's choose a different name. So let me see if I can just rename here. So let me say paper J service, right? Mm, underscore service, right? And then this should also be called I. It starts with a capital I because it's an interface. So paper J underscore service, then rename everything. And then, yeah, I think it should be fine now. And why is it complaining? Okay, let's just do this. Let's restart. Let's add the service again. I don't think the names should be an issue, but seems like doesn't like it. So WCF service. Uh, Let me call it paper J service like this, right? I don't know why it's doing this. So let me close and open it again. I don't know why Visual Studio does this, Shem. I honestly don't know. It does this thing a lot. So paper J service, right? Sometimes closing and opening it again does sometimes it does fix the problem. Um, mm, da, da, da. Let's wait for it to load. Did it finish loading? Yeah, you see, it's now finished loading and it has no issues, but it was complaining for some weird reason. I just don't get it. So the thing is, this name is also too long because paper J service, right? Remember, when you use it on that other side, that means we're gonna use it as paper J service. Save it appends the it's fine. It's going to just append client on that other side. Yeah. Okay, it's fine. I thought it was gonna append service again. I was like, that's a little bit too redundant, but I just realized I was wrong. So let's go back here and um yeah, we haven't linked to SQL classes yet. So I'm gonna call this paper J and then drag and drop my tables, which is under data, and then drag and drop. We'll add all the foreign keys and all the other things later once we need those tables. For now, we don't. So it should return an S byte. The function should be called add fruit, which is going to take in a fruit. I'm going to call it fruit. You see, it's no longer complaining. That's the thing that I don't understand about Visual Studio. It just randomly complains. You close and open, it stops complaining. So operation contract, we need to be able to add the fruit, get a fruit by its ID. So fruit, get fruit by its ID. And I know the ID is going to be something positive, like unsigned, right? So I'm going to use unsigned int or uint, which just means unsigned or positive integer. And then ID. And you could name the ID proper way you want to name it. So I'm going to call it my fruit ID. And then operation contract. Now we need to get a list of fruits or fruits, all of the fruits that are there. So I'm going to call it get fruits. So there we go. We have all the three methods we need. And then do work is no longer in existence. I need to delete that and then double click implement interface. Then it's going to add all the methods that are missing that haven't been implemented. And then I need to add the fruit. You see how easy it is when you pass the actual object or the actual fruit. You see how easy it is to add or delete things. So to add, before we add, you need to check if the object does exist. So I'm going to say obj fruit, call it obj fruit, right? Is equals to, but before I do that, I need to create a data context so that I can refer to my classes, right? To my SQL classes. So I've called it paper J. So it's going to be paper J data context. DB is equals to new paper J context, data context. And then I'm going to say is equals to, and then I'm going to type in a SQL statement here. So from, and then store that whatever is going to be returned into this variable called f from what in my table, and I reference the tables using DB, this data context, dot fruits table, where now we do like a where condition or an if statement. Where what? Where f dot remember the IDs are going to be unique. So I don't need to check for everything. Check the category name and what. I can just check the IDs if they're the same. So dot ID dot equals to that fruit ID that is going to generate here. But since it's a new entry, right? It only generates the ID when it's entered. So therefore, it actually forces me to compare everything because technically the ID it's not in existence at the moment. In existence at the moment. So I'm just gonna check if all the information from this fruit matches with any information that we have already stored in our database. So that means I'm gonna check the category name, image, and price. Category name dot equals to that fruit that we're passing in its name dot name and f dot the price matches with the price of that fruit that we're taking in dot price. And one last thing is it's the image. So dot image dot equals to that fruit's image. And then if we end up finding that thing, we need to select it or just select it whether we find it or not. And then if you just leave it without calling the first or default, it's going to return all the products that match this description. Oh, and yeah, I totally forgot something. I totally forgot. I felt like something was missing. We need a description for the product so that when you go to the about page or about fruit page. And for me, I'm going to be slick with it. I'm going to use ChatGPT to generate the descriptions for all the products. Remember, I'm just generating description. It's not like I'm copying or something. So description, and then the description is going to be a voucher max. And then I need to update let me look at the spelling description. And I need to update my DBML model link to SQL classes again because that previous link does not include description. So basically that class does not have a description. So I need to go back here, my .dbml, you see there's no description. And then I need to delete that. But before I drag and drop, I need to refresh, click here to refresh to make sure that those updates are the description that I've added is going to show. Or you can right click on the table and click on refresh. And then drag and drop, you see that the description is now there. And then you can click save all at the top. So I knew that something was missing and you need to check the description. So f.description dot equals to that fruit's description. So if you find a fruit that matches all these things match, that means that actual fruit exists. So there's many ways you can go about doing your if statement. You can start by checking if it does exist or checking if it does not exist. It's up to you. You don't cram and just write it one way. So if obj fruit, right, it's not equals to null, that means it exists, right? The fruit does exist. Because not equals to null, it means it's not empty. So that means it does exist. So since it does exist, what does that mean? That means we have an issue because we want to add a new fruit. That means it already exists. So I'm just going to return 1. So 1 will represent that it already exists. And then else, that means it does not exist. Does not exist, right? So since it does not exist, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new entry. But remember, I already passed that fruit there. So it's simple. I'm just going to say db dot fruits table dot insert on submit. Basically insert a new fruit. What is the fruit called? Fruit. So you see it by me passing objects like this, it makes my work a bit easier. But then you realize something when you have foreign keys. You are not allowed to pass it. It's gonna crash when you pass it as objects. You need to pass it as individual data, like a string, int, float, whatever that information is. So when you get to the user table, right? I'm not gonna pass in a user object because I'm avoiding in the future when you add primary keys, it's gonna crash. So db insert and then I need a try catch block to submit this change to the database and then return 0 when everything went well. And then I'm gonna catch an exception if it failed to add. And then I'm just gonna print that exception dot get base exception and then return -1. So all the paths have been handled. So we did successfully insert. You see that the code is going to become a bit shorter here. That code for var fruit is equals to new fruit. We're now going to edit on the server side, which is on the website, because here we just pass in the object. So a lot of the work for initializing this object will be done on the website side. So same applies here. It's pretty much the same thing, but then now we're comparing with this ID. And we need the fruit to actually exist. Obj fruit is equals to, and then I'm going to say from f in db dot my fruits, where f dot id, which is the primary key, is equals to that id that this user is passing in. And then I'm going to select that column from my table, but I don't want all of the columns that match with that id. I only want columns that the first one that matches. So dot first or default. Or default means that's going to return null if there's nothing. And then I'm going to say obj fruit. And remember, we need to get back it needs to exist. So when it's not equals to null, that means we found the product or the fruit that we're looking for. Therefore, we can get it back. But remember, this obj fruit, it stores everything, right? Even the ID. We might not necessarily need the ID, right? We need everything else though, like the name, category, price, blah, 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 in stock. We need all of that, but we might not necessarily need the ID. So therefore, I'm going to create a temporary object to return only the things that I need. So I'm going to call it fruit is equals to new fruit. And then I extract from this fruit that we retrieve from the table only the necessary information that I need. Then I return this temporary object with the one that has only the information that I need. So I'm going to say fruit dot name. So we're going to need everything except the ID. That's all you're going to need. But remember, when you get all the fruits, right, I actually need all of the information, including the ID. Why? Because that ID will be passed to the about fruit page, which calls this method, and that method takes in the fruit ID. So just know the flow. Understand what you're trying to do. So fruit, the name, and then fruit dot price, then obj fruit dot price, and then fruit dot category. What category is it? Obj fruit dot category, and then fruit. After category, what else do we have? So we have name, category, description dot description is equals to obj fruit dot description. This should pretty much suffice. I don't actually need to check if it's in stock or not, but for the sake of making it easy for the user to know whether the product is in stock or not, I will also return in stock. So dot in stock obj fruit dot in stock. If you look at our table, you realize that we got everything, or the image. Hey, I almost forgot. Yeah, don't make this mistake. That's why I compare. So I advise you to open your table. So you see it's going to be like this, and then you expand. And then you click this pin to pin it on the side so that when you type in here, you know what you're supposed to be retrieving so that you don't forget. I forgot to do that technique. So fruit.image, because I also want the image. What's the point of going to the about page and you don't see the image? So the image, so that we took everything except for the ID because we don't need the ID. That's why I created a temporary object for that because I wanted to extract only the information that I need. And then I'm going to return fruit, which has what information? The name, the category, the price, the description, the in stock, whether it's in stock or not, and the image. And then for fruits, right, get fruits. So I'm going to unpin this because for fruits, it's easy. I need everything, including the ID. I just need the whole column. So list of fruits, and then I'm going to call it fruits in plural. And then I need to instantiate it. Remember, you instantiate objects here. You forget to instantiate, you're going to throw a null point exception because it will be pointing to null. And then I'm going to use dynamic. If you use var, right, var, it's going to automatically determine what type, but then var only works is going to determine a singular type, like int, float. No, it does. So if you return an array, it's going to crash if you use var. So we need to use dynamic, meaning that it can be a list, it can be a single value, like int, it can be anything. So dynamic, I'll call this one obj fruits. Let's distinguish between the two. Is equals to from f in what? My fruits table, where what? That's where that you see that's where that in stock variable comes into play. So where dot in stock dot equals, remember I used char for in stock. So where the in stock variable or entry is equals to y, meaning that the product is in stock, then select those products. I'm not gonna call first or default because I want all entries that match with this. So therefore, I'm gonna leave it like this with no dot first or default. So this will obviously work or not. And if it fails, that means it's gonna return null. So obj fruits, not object. Obj fruits, if it's not equals to null, right? If the obj fruits are not equals to null, that means we found the fruits. But I need to add them to my array list. Why? Because if you try to return dynamic, it'll be like, well, the types don't match list or what. Why are we getting that issue? Well, we're getting the issue because this actually returns an array of prods or of fruits, right? So it basically it returns this. This is what it returns. Fruits array, right? This is what it returns. This dynamic. And here you have a list. Two different things. They work the same, but it's two different things. So you need to actually go through all of the every fruit that was retrieved, and then add it to this array list. Since we need everything, right? So I'm gonna say for each, and then for each fruit, and I'm gonna store it in this variable called fruit in what array list or no, in what list or what array. So the array or list is called fruits in plural, and then no, not fruits. My bad. Obj fruits, because that's where the returned fruits will be stored, as you can see here. Then I now need to add it to my fruits array list. So every single fruit needs to be added. Remember, methods in C#, they start with an uppercase letter. It's just the convention. That's how it works. So actually, I've named my functions wrong. So it shouldn't be get fruits in small. It should start with a capital letter. So dot add, you see, capital letter. Add an item. So fruit. That's what we're adding. I'm adding it as it is like this. Why? Because I want all of the information, including the ID. Basically, I want the whole thing. If I wanted to select specific information, I would have said var fruit, new fruit, and then extract only the information that I need. In this case, I want everything. So I'm going to leave it as it is. Therefore, I'm going to return. Okay, I do not want, okay, let me phrase this properly. I do not want necessarily everything inside of for when I'm getting the fruits. I don't want necessarily everything. Let's think about it. So remember, when you get the get fruits method, it's going to show the fruits in the on the fruit page. Do we have a description on the fruit page? Nope. But we have a category, we have an image. Do we have an in stock on the fruit page? Nope. So we want everything except for the description and the in stock. Those ones should be displayed when you go to the about fruit. So technically I could, to be honest, it doesn't really matter. If I'm being quite frank, it doesn't matter. Just do things and make it work. But just for the sake of trying to be accurate, I'm just going to say obj fruit. So obj fruit is equal to new fruit, right? And then I extract from this fruit all the information that I need. Because what's going to happen is it's going to go through this dynamic what list of fruits that we returned or array of fruits. And then I'm going to get it one by one and store it inside this fruit variable. So I do not want to add the whole fruit. I want to get specific information. So I'm going to say obj fruit. Let's start with the ID. We need the ID because we need to pass the ID to the about fruit page. So take it from this fruit variable, take the ID, and then obj fruit also needs a name because on the fruit page we need to display the fruit name. And then we also need do we need a category? Yeah, we need to filter. So I'm gonna need a category. So obj fruit dot category is equals to fruit dot category. And then we also need the image. What's the point of going to the up to the fruit page and not seeing the image of the fruit? There's no point. So we also need the image, and then image fruit dot image, and then we need the price. And then that's pretty much all we need. Obj fruit dot price is equals to fruit dot price. That's pretty much what we need. The in stock and description, they're only applicable for the get pro fruit function because that's where we display more information about the product. So here, instead of passing the whole column, I only pass this obj fruit, which takes in only the necessary information that I need. And then I'm going to return because I'm adding it into my array list, and this function expects me to return back an array list. So I'm going to return back this array list. As you can see, this is where I add each fruit into the fruits list. So I'm going to return fruits. So that's when it was not equals to now, but it might not exist, or these products might not exist, right? So when they don't exist, what must I do? Just return null. Why am I returning null? Because this function expects you to return a list of objects. It could either be null or it could be not null. So hence I'm returning null. If it was returning integers, then I will return an int. So we are officially done with this function. Let me just double check something here. I think I forgot to return here. Did I? Oh yeah, I forgot to check. You see, it even tells you that you only checked one of the possibilities. You must check for all possibilities. I checked when the product was actually in existence, right? Or it existed. I must also return null when it doesn't exist. And then it's gonna stop shouting at me. And then you go back here, everything is fine. Then I'm gonna go to the interface. And then I'm gonna run the interface. And then it's building, running. Okay, so there we go. And you need to run the .svc or service. We don't want to see the code, we just want to run it. So you see, it's PaperJ service client. That's how you're going to call it. So I don't need to remember that because the moment I create a service reference, I can just start typing the first few words and then it's going to autocomplete. So I'm going to copy the URL or the link where the service is running. Then I'm going to go to my website. Then I'm going to link it to that service. And then I'm going to say create a service reference. Basically a reference to my service or a pointer to my service, right? Or an address. And then if I double click here, there's all the methods. And then here for service reference, I'm just going to call this one paper J underscore service reference. And then click OK. And then it's going to load and try to link to that service, right? And now it is officially linked. So we need to access it by using this namespace because it's going to create a namespace. Now this will be a namespace, but then there's also this namespace. So I need to access this namespace that's within this namespace, which is basically your project name. Okay, let me just double check something. Okay, close. So we need to go, that means for add fruit, we need to go to the back end. So how do we go there? We need to double click on this button to add functionality for when that button is clicked, just like in Informatics 1A and 1B. So there's the form, and then I double click on my form to view the code. Then I type all the code that should go here when the button is clicked. So remember this function, what it's supposed to do, or this button is supposed to add the fruit. So that means we need to add our fruit to our database. So before we do that, we need to use that namespace. So we'll use that service reference, right? So using my project is already a namespace on its own, as you can see. And then I say dot to access that namespace. You see, it's also a namespace, that service reference. So I'm using that service reference namespace. And then now I can do what? I can now add the fruit. So let's try to add the fruit. So in order to add the fruit, I need to create a new fruit object because remember the add fruit. But before I do that, we need to create a service client, basically to be able to point to call methods inside of our service. So it's you create it by typing paper J service client. I'm just going to call it client is equals to new, and then don't forget to close. You must always close. So dot close. As you can see, it starts in an uppercase letter. Like I said, everything in C#, every method starts in an uppercase letter. It uses what you call Pascal case. You can go Google that. It uses Pascal case. So our we have our service client instantiated. Now we can call methods from that service client. But before we call the methods in the service client, in our service, we cannot call it without having the actual fruit object because it expects a fruit object. So I'm just going to type the code that I usually type on the database side or on the service side. I'm going to call it obj fruit and say is equals to new fruit, right? Or you could do this. Remember what I told you, there's two ways of working about. You can initialize it this way. Then you access the actual columns by name. So you can say name for that fruit is equals to, and then you do that. So I'm just going to do it the normal way that we do it. So obj fruit dot, okay, it seems like we have an issue here. It's not picking up. So I don't know what's up with the service reference. So let me update it again. It's not picking up when I type fruit, right? It's supposed to show me all the columns. You see, it's not showing me category. It's not showing me anything. What could be the issue? Isn't it not picking it up? You see, this is why sometimes I do not like ASP.NET. You see, it's saying it's fruit within fruit. Seems like there's something that's, if I'm not mistaken, seems like there's something that's already called fruit. Yeah, you see, fruit. Oh, yeah. Remember what I was talking about? Yeah. This is the same error. I was trying to avoid it, but I end up getting the same error. It's actually instantiating it to a new page because there's a page called fruit.aspx. Rename that, make sure there's no page with that name. So I'm going to go to rename and use fruits in plural. Press enter. That should fix all of your problems. And then I go to my main.master page and I change, it's no longer fruit.aspx, it's fruits in plural. Because yeah, it wasn't picking it up. And then I'm going to, it should have picked it up. Let me refresh my service reference since I've renamed the page. So let me update my service reference. And then I'm going to do this. Let me say fruit. Paper J. It's not the one that I'm looking for. You see why this thing is a bit problematic. So let me save all and then close this page and then double click on the server side again and then see if that's gonna, yeah, make sure you don't name your pages the same. You see, it's still picking up that one. I don't know why it's doing that. So let's do this. Let me close this project and open it again. So I'm going to open Visual Studio. Yeah, so make sure you create your tables, the names that you've given your tables, that they do not match with the names of your actual pages. So if you have a fruit table, do not have a fruit.aspx. That's gonna cause a conflict. Then let's see now if it's still picking it up. I don't know where it's getting this fruit from. So let's see. The thing is, I do not want to do this. It's going to be untidy. If I say paper J service reference dot fruit, this is not what I want because now you'd have to use it this way. You have to go to that specific namespace so that it knows you're referring to this fruit and not the fruit page. But I don't know why it's still complaining because I did say using that service reference. And then I guess I have to use it like say using service reference again. Dot paper J service reference, right? And then I'm going to say fruit, still not picking it up. This is a huge unnecessary problem. So let me try to refresh my project, right? When I click refresh here. What is this one? Yeah, let's see if that refreshing did help. Still, it's not picking it up. Okay, let me just run the project. I don't know why it's doing this. It totally does that. Like I said, that's an error that you should try by all means to avoid. I totally forgot to name my page uniquely because now it's thinking I'm referring to that page, but it's no longer in existence. I don't know why it still thinks that. Okay, so seems like it's gonna force me to do something I do not want to do. Basically, recreate the add fruit page again. Because I think the when it was that time when it was created, this page fruits page was still called fruit. So I think that's where the main issue is. So paper, what is this? Fruit. Yeah, I do not have a choice. I have to create the page again. So it's going to be much simpler to create the page again. I'm going to open Notepad++ and copy and paste this. But then that means I need to drag and drop the buttons and the labels again. You see, it's how much work I have to go through because of this small error that ASP.NET is introducing. And then the styling, I also need that styling because I don't want to measure again. So copy. I'm gonna put the styling immediately after this. Then now I can delete my page. So I'm going to delete my add fruit page because clearly it's useless. Delete, remove it, and then recreate it again. If it's confusing, then I guess we have to name our table product. Yeah, that's pretty much what you have to go through. So add fruit, right? And then it's been created again. Hopefully now it won't give us issues. And then I'm going to take my form and my breadcrumb section and then add them back and then Control A, Control F, Control K, Control F. Then remember, you always need to drag and drop the labels and buttons again if you copy and paste from a different page, or just basically copy and paste. So there's the new label, and then delete. You shouldn't start with any text. Then I'm gonna have the button btn add fruit, and then delete that old one. Then I'm gonna give it the same name, btn add fruit. If it's still stubborn, then we have to rename our class, our table to product. And then I'm going to click on this side, design, because I want to see the button and double click on the button. Okay, the styling, yeah, before I forget, as you can see, it's not been styled properly. So we need the styling, copy, and then put it in the head section. And then now when I go back to design, you see that now it's a bit styled. Then I'm going to double click on my button, and then I'm going to use my service reference again. So dot paperj service reference, and then I'm going to create a client, service client, and then client is equals to new paperj service client. Don't forget to always close your client dot close, right? And then let's see if it's still stubborn. Yeah, it's still not picking it up. So what I need to do is I need to find where this thing is created. So class is paperj dot fruit. Where this class is created, I need to delete it. Let me try to find it because I don't want to be renaming my page, changing my page or whatever. Is it the config files? I think it's the config. Let me see. Okay, it's not this one. Was it still saved? Even though I renamed my table, it's still saved somewhere. Okay, my laptop is now jamming. Okay, come on, respond. Okay, this is not the file. I need to find out where it's defined. Okay, this is not the file. It says it's paperj service, right? Dot class. Where's the class? Is it this assembly info? Okay, nope. Okay, let's look at references. Data set extensions, web service, system.web. Okay, so that's not, let's go here. And then paperj, yeah, I see it's here. So let me try to delete this. Okay, go to definition. Mm, how come it's refusing to delete? You see, that's still existing, but it's no longer there. That's where the issue is. Let me just, I don't want to rename my table because now I have to link to SQL classes again. That's um Mm, d- 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 Where's this thing? And it's still named fruit.aspx dot. You see, it's not there. So it seems like in order to fix this issue, you have to delete the whole page entirely, then copy and paste again, which is such a drag. Just give me a sec. I do not want to rename my tables. I need to find a solution ASAP. Mm, so this is where the class is. Let's do this. Let's remove it here, right? Then also remove it here because it's clearly not doing anything. Let me check something. Where's the full path for this thing? Paper J. I've renamed it to fruits. Why is it picking it up as fruit? Let me try it again. Okay, now it's picking it up. Paper J service reference is equals and fruit is equals to new fruit, right? Yeah, now it's picking it up. I don't know why it was. Hey, this thing is really annoying. So delete that. So just make sure on your first try, do not create a page called fruit or you can just call it. You can create your pages called product, add product, but the tables need to have a different name. So fruit, and then I'm gonna say initialize the fruits. Let's start with the name is equals to what? Fruit name. That's what I've called it. Dot get the value, right? But then the value might have spaces on the left and the right hand side, so I need to trim those spaces just to make sure I get the actual information. So fruits dot category is equals to fruit category dot value dot trim, and then fruit dot image is equals to fruit image dot value dot trim, and then fruit dot description. So I'm missing a description there because remember I had previously not taken it into account. So I need to have a fruit description. So copy one div and then put it here and say enter fruit description. And then the ID will be fruit description. Fruit description. And then that's pretty much it. And then I'm gonna go back to my server side. Then I'm gonna say fruit description because it now exists. Dot value dot trim. So we have the name, the category, the image, the description, and the price. So fruit dot price, but then remember price is decimal. And when you get the value of an input field, it returns a string. As you can see, it returns a string. So I need to cast it. So I need to use my convert class, which has my methods to convert. So convert, and it starts with the TO to the specific type. So I want to convert to a decimal. So dot to decimal. And then you pass the value, which can be found by going to the fruit price input with that ID, getting its value, and then trimming its value. Make sure there's no spaces on the left and right hand side. And then we have name, description, we have name, category, image, description, and price. Now we need to set the in stock. So since we don't have an option for the user, we set it manually. Obviously, when you're adding the product the first time, we're gonna assume that it's in stock by default. Or you could have a select case where that says whether in stock or not. So let's just do that to make sure that it's fair, right? So I'm going to do a select statement, right? So select, and then, okay, I need to type it out. So select statement, right? And it select as options. So the first option is always what text is always going to have the text of what the user is actually being asked. And its value will be nothing because it's meant to be just a label. So value, what should the user enter? So I'm going to say I'm just going to ask the product the question, is the product or is the fruit in stock? That will be the question. Is the fruit in stock? Then I'm going to have other options which will serve as the actual options. So the first one, its value would be a Y. So this would be yes. And then another option, its value when it's selected, it's going to be N, which stands for no. And then I need to give this select an ID. So select ID is going to be the fruit in stock. It represents that the fruit is in stock so that I can view this ID in the server side and it to say run at server. Then I'm going to go to this side and then now, and remember whatever's being, when you call the .value function, right? Or yeah, that value function or the value attribute, you're returning a string, but we want to remember in stock is a char. So I need to convert again. So convert dot to char, and it takes in the fruit in stock attribute and gets the value and trims. We don't need to trim because we've already set the value, but trimming is just a good habit to have. So now we have the object, right? The fruit object. Now we can add the fruit. So I'm going to get a response is equals to my client dot add fruit. And it takes in a fruit object, which I've called it fruit. Then we're going to get a response. So the response, we're going to check if response dot equals 0, then we know everything went well. Therefore, my message, its color should be green. So green, you can choose any green here. I think dark, let's use dark sea green. Let me see. Let me check this color. Let me Google these colors online to see how they're gonna look. Dark sea green. Nah, this is not it. Yeah, dark sea green is not the one. So I'm going to choose the uh, dark green because I want it to be visible because it's going to be white. Remember, my page is white, right? So at least if I use a bright color, the text will be visible. Is text is equals to fully added. I don't know if there's, I think there's a double Y. Successfully added root. And then if the response dot equals a 1, then I'm gonna say message dot for color should be red. So I'm gonna choose a dark red because, like I said, it's a white background. So I'm gonna choose dark colors. If it's a 1, that means the product or the fruit already exists. So fruit already exists. And then if it's a -1, some error occurred. So I'm gonna phrase that error as an internal service error. So there was an internal issue with our service. We don't know what it is, but some error occurred, some internal error. So dark red, and then message dot text is equals to some internal service error occurred, right? And then that's how we're gonna know whether everything went well or not. So what I need to do is I need to also fix something here. So I need to know which folder is the product stored. So you go to the asset folder and then go to IMG folder, and then go to the products folder. This is quite a process. Then we have the products. So with me, I want to make things simple for myself. I want to rename the images and then add them again. So this is strawberry, right? So I'm gonna make life easy for myself. So okay, strawberry. Since I only have one strawberry, I'm gonna name it that. This is blueberry because I can't remember which whether it's product image 1 or 2. You see, it's going to be a problem. Blueberry. Since I have like, I think I have one of each product here, and then lemon.jpg, lemon.jpg, and then what is this one? Kiwi.jpg. So let me scroll down. Kiwi, and then which one is this one? An apple. So this is an apple, and then I'm gonna rename to apple.jpg, and then this is what is this again? I totally forgot. It's a it's a berry, but I forgot what type of berry. Um, is it a cranberry? I think it's a cranberry, if I'm not mistaken. So cranberry. I think it's a cranberry. Is it? Nope, it's not. Cranberry is a bit different. Is it a red berry? Is there such thing called a red berry? And let me see. Yeah, seems like there is. Yeah, red berry farm. I want to see the images. Mm, okay, by red berries, they mean berries that are red, but I want that specific one. Okay, so it's actually not red berry. I forgot. What is it? Let me see. Let me say different types of berries. Oh, I think it's a raspberry. Yeah. That's the term that was not coming through. Yeah, it's a raspberry. Yeah. So this is a raspberry. So I'm like I said, I'm gonna use ChatGPT to generate the descriptions. So I know that it's going to be in the assets and then image folder. So I need to save that down. It's going to be in the assets folder. Then you go to the image folder. Then you go to the products folder. That's where you'd find it. So that's where I'll save my images. So I'm gonna copy them. Remember, this image is already there, just that I renamed them so that it's easy to locate them. I've given them the actual product, that product name, and then image, and then where's the products? Then I'm gonna select that products folder and then Control V to paste all of the images. If you don't paste them, you don't find them. That's the problem. So make sure you have that figured out. Okay, so now it's loading. I don't know how long the session has been now. Okay, it's now 2 hours, but there's a lot going on here, so we need to. So I'm gonna make it around 2 hours, 2 hours and a few minutes. So let's add, right? So we could make this big, a bit bigger, but that's fine. So what category is the product? So let's look at our images, right? It's a Raspberry. I'm gonna start with the Raspberry, right? And then I'm gonna open ChatGPT and then ask it to generate descriptions. Generate short descriptions for my fruits on my fruit for my fruit for my fruits for my website. I will give you one name at a time. Okay, and then Raspberry. Okay, so there's the description. So I don't want to think about silly description. So the category is going to be berry because it's a berry. It's a different type of a berry. So image URL, remember it's assets folder. Then you go to the image folder, then you go to the products folder, then you'll find the image. I've saved it as raspberry.jpg. And then the fruit name will just be what it's the actual fruit, which is a raspberry. So I need to spell it this way. Enter fruit description. There it is. You're gonna see an issue here when you're entering the price. That's why I prefer to save my prices as integers. Why? Because your computer sometimes by default it uses a comma to represent a double or a dot. So it's gonna crash, it's going to say incorrect format if you provide the incorrect one. So I think mine is it's a comma, right? So let me add a dot on paper so that you see what I'm talking about. So this would be 23.99. Is it in stock? Yes. And then it should crash. Yes. So you see, input string it was not in correct format. So basically, like I said, you need to find out what your computer uses. So you might get that error on the first try. Choose a different symbol. I use the dot, so I must try the comma. It should work now. There's the description. And then one thing I'm going to change is this to a comma. And then I need to open ChatGPT again. Tell it to generate descriptions for my fruits. Generate this short descriptions for my fruits on my fruit website. I will give you a fruit name at a time. So it expects me to enter the fruit name. So let's try to add the fruit now. There's nothing much that changes. Only the difference is I use the comma. So you see, now it successfully added the fruit. Let's see what next fruit do we need to add. Strawberry. So let me tell it to generate a description for that. A strawberry. And the descriptions are kind of similar. So juicy and vibrant. So I'm going to call this strawberry. And then here should change to a strawberry. The category is still the same. The price we can just change it slightly so that we have unique prices. And then by default, it's always in stock, right? Just keep that in mind. And then blueberry, you could decide what to make one product out of stock so that you see that it only displays the products that are in stock. You could do that, but I'm not gonna do that. because I want to see, I have very few products, so I need to see all of my products. So blueberry, it's still a berry, and then blueberry. Blueberries, I know that they're quite expensive, so 33, even strawberries, but it's fine. 33, and then bam, head fruit. And then after the blueberry, we have the lemon, then lemon, and then copy, go back here, and then the category, I'll call it lemon because it's lemons. There's no, I can't, yeah, there's no other category. So I'm gonna call it lemon, and then lemon, Control A to select everything, Control V to paste. And then I'm gonna say 2888, and then add fruit. And then what other fruit? Kiwi and then apple. So kiwi and then an apple. Then copy this. Kiwi. So the image is called kiwi.jpg, and then this is a kiwi. And then say 4888, and then an apple. And then now we can dynamically populate our products since we now know they'll be saved in the database. And then copy, paste. And then this is an apple. The image is apple.jpg. The category is apple because you can have red apples, green apples. So yeah, the category is just apple. Okay, let's just say this is the price for that apple because they're not really expensive. And then we have all the fruits added into our database. Now we can dynamically populate. So I'm done with add fruit. Right, I'm done with add fruit. And then I'm gonna open here, minimize that, and then go to my fruits page. I obviously need to go to the back end or the service side. And then you see something is missing since I deleted, it wasn't picking it up. I need to change this to fruits. So I need to check on the other page, one of the other pages. So yeah, so that you don't be like me, make sure you create your pages properly. If you use product page, make sure the products page or the product page on the actual website is called products.aspx. So make sure you fix those issues. So I want to go to add product. Okay, so this is the part that I'm missing. So the partial class should actually be called fruits in plural. Okay, so I put it back and then save all. So now we need to use our service reference because we need to call methods from our service application. And then I add it, and then now we need to dynamically populate. So you see how it filters. You'll see how easy filtering is. You see, there's this data filter, and then you pass in the name for that filter or for the ID for that div. And then you say dot to go to that div. So dot strawberry is gonna go there. So I want to have different categories. I want to have berry category, and it'll be called berry. So berry in small letters. Pay attention, it's in small letters. And then I'm going to have apple category. Then I'm going to have apple. Lemon should be there. And then I need to add a couple more. So after berry and apple and lemon, we have kiwi. Kiwi. And then let me see. We only have kiwi, right? Yeah. So these are only the options that are available. And if you look at every single product, you see there's that name. That's how it's going to filter. So you need to pass that name, and then it's going to go to that class, and then it's going to filter. When this is clicked, it's going to go there. So that means when I'm dynamically populating here, I need to check the category. I need to do an if statement to check the category for each product. But then remember, each product is inside this. You see, even the berry, there's the berry keyword. So when berry is pressed, it's going to go to all the divs with the berry keyword. Berry, yeah. So how now I can easily find out how the products are. So this is called product lists, basically for my list of products. Where does what is the information representing each product? You see, it's this div starting from there, ending there. You go to the next one, it ends there. So I can choose one of these divs. So I'm gonna cut and copy and cut this one. So you saw how we're going to filter, right? I must remember those names. That's how easy filtering is. But I just figured out when I was testing out this thing. Remember, all these things, you figure them out. There's no manual on how you do it. You just figure it out. There's no like, okay, this is how we filter. No. HTML is always going to be different. So you can't say this is the only way of filtering. So I'm going to call my fruits, my div, and then run it server. Then I'm going to insert inner HTML because as you can see, I removed HTML. Like I said, you do not need this next previous what thingy. This one, we just leave it for now because that's not our main concern. And then this should be dynamically populated where when the page loads, there should be a page load here. Yeah, you see something is missing. Okay, before I check what's missing, I need to copy and paste this code here for each product before I lose it. And then I go to any of the products, any of the pages. I need the page loads part. Yeah, this part. Yeah, you see, do not name your products, your pages incorrectly, or else you'll be like me. You'll have these issues. So when the page loads, that's what I need. And then copy all of this, go back here. So this is information representing each product, but you see it adds spaces automatically. So immediately after copying, I press Control Z to undo the spacing. You see, there's no spacing. So now I need to create my service client. Client is equals to new paper service client. And I do not want this to always execute every time when the page loads. How do I do that? I just put it in within an if statement and say if is not is post back. Is post back and means that the page is reloaded. Is not, that means the page is not reloaded, meaning that it is loaded the first time. So I only want to dynamically populate so that it doesn't make my application laggy or slow. It shouldn't always dynamically populate every time the page loads. Nope. Since I've pasted it, added those spaces again, Control Z to undo the spaces. Okay, this client.close needs to go at the end, but before, still within that if statement. And then I'm going to use the string builder to make my life easier. You can use a string, that's up to you. So it's stored inside the system.text namespace. And then now I can instantiate a string builder, just like in Java. So I'm going to call mine. So remember what I talked about. We're going to have different things. We're going to have berries. We're going to have apples. We're going to have lemons and so forth, right? So I'm going to create different string builders, right? Because I want to append this text on each div. Because if you remember each div, in order for it to filter, you append that text, whether it's a berry or a strawberry, excuse me, whatever you're calling it, you need to append that there, right? So this is going to be tricky if I use one string builder. So I need to use, okay, I could. Okay, it's fine. Yeah, I could. Yeah, you don't have to. The only difference is that I need to do if statements. That means I'm going to repeat myself. Yeah, I'm going to repeat myself. You see what I'm talking about. So this will be, I'll call it my stream is equals to new string builder, right? And then I'm going to get my products, right? So I'm going to say dynamic, right? And then, okay, I shouldn't have called it fruits because I want to call this whatever is returned fruits. So I'm going to call this fruits div. That's my div for my fruits. Then this one, I'm going to say these are the fruits that were returned. And then client dot get fruits in plural because I want multiple fruits. And if you check what I was talking about, it returns an actual fruit array, not a list. So yeah, keep that in mind. So that's why we just use dynamic to make things simple. So there's my fruits. I need to go through each of them. So a for each loop, and know at each point I'm going to get a fruit in fruits, right? And then now I can, before I append, remember for each div I need to append the specific name, whether it's a strawberry category, whether it's a berry or a lemon or an apple or a kiwi. So therefore I need to have multiple if statements. But since I know that multiple if statements, I don't like how it's going to the code is going to look. I can do it in many ways. I'll just use a switch statement. So I'm going to say switch and then fruit dot get the category. Okay, it seems like we are getting that same issue now. This is why I don't like front end. You see, it's picking it up as from this. I don't know why it's not deleted. It's fine. I'll just say paper J underscore service reference dot fruit. Yeah, just avoid this issue, right? Name your things properly because now you see every time, okay, this is going to be an issue. I'm saying it now. It's going to officially be an issue. Let's go back to our table and rename it to product. I just don't like front end. Web development, I don't like it. Because you see, issues like this, I don't know why it's not this is so stupid, it cannot pick up these differences. And remember, since our table has information, we need to copy and paste that information back into this new table. Because what happens is this is now problematic. So I need to rename this to from fruit to product. When you rename the table, it actually creates a whole new table. So that means that whole new table is going to be empty. So therefore, that whole new table needs to be, you need to transfer the data. So I'm gonna refresh. How come it's not refreshing now? Come on, why is it not refreshing? Yeah, you see, something is just off. I don't know what, but something is just off. Come on. It's taking too long. Something is not right. Why is it complaining? Okay, it seems like it's already defined, but I'm refreshing though. Why is it not showing? See now, that's why I just prefer C++ and you don't have any of these issues. Embedded system development or using C++. or C, or even just coding in assembly, you will never have these unnecessary issues of which it's not even your problem or your fault that they are there. They're just there. You see, there's now product showing. Like I said, front end of front end. Okay, before I drag and drop, remember that we still need to copy that information within this table. So I'm gonna go to before I say copy, I'm gonna go to show table data because I want to copy that table data. That we're adding, right? Remember we added all this information. Then I'm gonna select from there everything and then right click and say copy. That's the problem with making websites that I do not like. And then select one column there and then press Control V to paste the information. And then you can refresh just to double check if it's saved. Yeah, it doesn't disappear after we've refreshed. So we know we're good to go. Now you can officially drag and drop. So you see what happens if you make that small issue, that's small difference. And if you don't fix that error, I'm telling you, it's not going to dynamically populate. Some people get lucky and they just named their things weirdly and they 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 just avoid that error. They don't face the same issues. But if you're naming your things properly, if it's supposed to be called product, you name it product, you might eventually face that error. So you see how long it takes to fix that small error. So now that means in my service, both backend, both the implementation and the interface, I need to rename and change it to product. I'll just change it to the data type to product. I won't change what I've called the methods because I know they're supposed to get fruits. So I'm just gonna leave the names as they are. But then remember the table is no longer fruits, now products. So that's pretty much what I'm going to change. Wherever I see fruit, I put product. So you see, it's quite a lot of things to fix. That's why I just said avoid this process, name your things properly. And then product, and then product, and then product, and then products, product, and then product. Should be fine now. So all the errors are gone. Now we can continue. As long as I don't have a product.aspx page, then I'll never have those issues. The thing is, I don't know where it's saving all of these things because now it's giving me a serious problem and I do not want that problem to persist because that means on every new page, whenever I call this method, whenever I use fruit, it's going to crash. It's going to be in conflict. It won't say, it will say, I don't know whether you mean the fruit page, but it's not there. It still has it saved, but it's not actually there. It's just stupid. So this needs to be changed to product. You see now it's picking it up easily. And then I need to open that add fruit page because there's no fruit, there's nothing called fruit now. So I need to say product and then it's equals to new product. Like I said, I'll just only rename where I'm supposed to rename. The rest of the information is still relevant because I'm dealing with fruits here. And then, like I said, we're going to do a switch statement. Then I'm going to say fruit dot category. You see, all the errors are gone now. And it took quite a lot to fix those errors. And I know the different categories, right? Remember, this category is the information that's actually saved in the database. It doesn't we're not referring to these ones here. Nope, there's a difference. In my database, I've every category starts with an uppercase letter. So let's say we have berry here. That means this div should have berry in it. And then case kiwi. That div should have Kiwi in it. And then break. And then the next case will be Apple. That means that div should have the Apple text in it. And then what's the other one? Lemon, right? Yeah, and then that's the last one. So lemon, and then there we go, and then break. Remember, switch statements in C# and Java, they also can compare, they can look at a string like this. In languages like C++, you have to actually pass in an integer or a char. The data types like strings don't work. Maybe the new C++ version, it can work, but the actual standard C++ that's quite in use in the industry because they usually use old versions of the language. It doesn't support a switch statement where you can put in compare strings. So Control Z to undo spaces. Then I've called my thingy a stream, so I need to append. So stream dot append. I'm gonna append each line or each div, right? So copy, extract this. Control Z to undo because you see it's gonna add spaces every time you paste. Control Z to undo the spaces, and then backslash to skip those double quotes. But remember, I'm inside what category? Berry. So I need to say here, it's not strawberry, it's berry, right? Why am I saying berry here? Because when it filters, when it sees this berry, it's going to show only the berries when you clicked here. That means it's going to go to this div with that string berry. Hence, I'm going to put berry here. Why? Because I'm now under the case for berry. That's how it's going to filter. You'll see that it's going to work. I just figured out recently. You just have to think about these things. That's how you figure them out. And then edit spaces, Control Z to undo them. And then stream.append. Yeah, you might say, well, I already know this thing, but are you sure you already know how to Control Z to undo spaces? Are you sure you already know how to dynamically populate? And because this dynamically populating involves filtering. There's quite a lot of coding involved. You have to be very patient. And then Control Z to undo spaces. And then this needs to redirect to the home page, right? To the about page. We haven't added the about page. So about fruit.aspx, that's what I'm going to call it. But for now, we're not going to implement that. I'm going to end it here to dynamically populating. And then I need to add the image. So remember, it's going to add spaces, Control Z to undo them. And then backslash to escape all the double quotes that don't indicate the end of the string. And then stream.append. And then the next line is this closing div. And then stream.append. Append this name, right? So this will be the product name, the fruit name, I mean. So stream.append. So we're almost done. Then this will be the price. Control Z to undo spaces. And yeah, so that's all the double quotes that we need to escape. And then dot append. And this should redirect to the cart, but we haven't added the cart functionality. Control Z to undo, then escape, escape. It's going to crash if you try to click on cut, right? So we won't try to use that functionality. And then the last one that we need to append is it's two closing divs, which is simple. I can put them within one string. So I'm just going to say this, and then there's all of the code for dynamically populating, but this is just for the berry, right? So I need to do the same for all the other ones. So I'm going to copy, and then under kiwi, I pretty much do the same thing, but the only difference is the text that I put here. This is when I found a kiwi. And then I scroll down here, pretty much do the same thing, but then I found an apple. So apple. And then I scroll down, I found a lemon. And then I'm going to say lemon over here. And then that's pretty much it. You're done. This is going to dynamically populate and filter at the same time. You see that we've passed in these names. Apple in all small letters, lemon in all small letters, kiwi in all small letters. We've passed those letters. So it's going to filter. And then after this switch statement, right? If you check, this is where it starts, that's where it ends, right? But I need to go outside the loop. So I need to select here so that it highlights so that I know where the loop ends. So the loop ends there. So basically just right before closing, this is where now I put in the HTML. So fruits, what did I call it? Did I call it fruits div? Yeah, it is called fruits div. How come it's not picking it up? Fruits div dot. This is weird. Like I'm not understanding what's going on here. Because there's my ID over here and there's run it server, but it's not seeing it. What the hell's going on here? So run it server. What's div? It's clearly this is now getting on my nerves. So let's do this. Let me just do this, right? This is now really pissing me off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to so let me copy all of this code because now I'm getting pissed off. So let me copy all of this code. Cut all of the code, right, for again populating. Put it within this file. Then I'm just going to recreate all these pages. So I know my fruits here. I'm gonna select all of this that's here. And then copy. Then delete fruits page because clearly it needs to be deleted at this point. And then right click and then add the page again, fruits, right? And then re-add that exact same code, right? And then there's the fruits div, Control S to save. Then I'm gonna go back to the back end, double click, and then copy and paste, right? Nothing new has changed, but then I need to use my service reference, right? And then I need to say using system.text since I'm using a string builder. No issues were found, right? Let's try to reference that div. You see, I just don't get it, man. That's why I'll never do front end or back end for that matter. I'm just going to major on C++. That's it. This thing really pisses me off. So stream.toString, convert it to a string. And I want to insert HTML, inner HTML. Why? Because you see there's div, there's what, all these things. But I made a huge mistake before copying. I forgot to pass the actual information for each product. So let's do that. So I have to actually recopy and paste. So ID is equals to, and then I need to split it up into two strings so that I actually put the ID dot ID, fruit dot ID, and then the image name is supposed to go here, or the image URL. So split it up into two strings and then fruit dot image. And then this is where the name should go. So split it up into two strings and then append the fruit name. And then this is where the price should go. But then I do not want to see kgs. So I'm just going to replace kgs with the actual price. So split up into two strings and then fruit dot price. But we need to convert it or to round it off to two decimal places. So math dot round fruit dot price underscore two to two decimal places. And then that's pretty much all we need. But then now, like I said, I made a mistake before actually putting the information. I just copied and pasted. So copy and paste back, but then this is now Kiwi category. And then I go back here, copy and paste the exact same code. But then this is now Apple. Remember, all these divs needs to have small letters, then lemon in all small letters. And then now it should dynamically populate. And it should dynamically populate once when the page loads for the first time, not every time when the page loads, which will in essence make our page slow. And we also need to do the same thing for our homepage. You see, our homepage also has products. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to fruits and then we'll try to see our fruits. So there they are. There's the fruits, but we need to add the R for the price, right? So I need to add that R. Oh, this is making a lot of mistakes. But then it's fine. The R doesn't really matter, but we just need to add it. So right before displaying the price, I'm going to put the R. And I need to do this everywhere. So R, and then right before the price, R, right before the price, R. So there we go. So I'm going to go to my fruits, and then there's the R for rents. But remember, it's supposed to redirect whatnot to all the other pages, but this checkout filtering, right? Let me try Kiwi. You see, it filters. There's Kiwi because I did it, I understood the HTML. And then I click lemon, it only shows me lemons. And then I click apple, it only shows me an apple. And then I click on berry, it should only show me berries. There's raspberry, strawberry, blueberry. Then I click on all, it should show me all the products. So it is filtering, right? And that's how you also filter with price and whatnot. You use different list items. Even color should only show you the ones that are red. You can do that, but this is more than enough of filtering. So that's pretty much what we were trying to achieve, and we did achieve that. But then remember, there's no about page yet. You should be able to click on each image and redirect to the about page, about fruit page, but you don't have it yet, so I'm just going to end it here, just on filtering. So far, nothing's new. The only new thing is the adding that category there so that it filters. So thanks for watching. We'll see you in part 1.